Journalist Javed Rana is joining us now live from Islamabad to discuss Turkey's diplomatic efforts in Asia during Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's 4-day visit to the region. Good afternoon, Javed. Thanks for joining us on NewsHour today. Now, how does President Erdogan's visit to Malaysia, Indonesia and Pakistan enhance Turkey's diplomatic efforts on security, particularly concerning the ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East?
The larger picture that is developing in the Middle East, I think this is just a beginning of doing something at diplomatic front, because at this particular point of time, Middle East is facing a kind of a situation which means that now we are going to see ethnic cleansing at a larger scale. All the indications which are on the ground, the situation has gone from bad to the worst. The US has joined hands with the apartheid state of Israel in ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. And that means that once the population from Gaza is removed, once a population from the West Bank is removed, that means then the demolition of the third holiest site of Islam would be within that touching distance. I think these are the worries of the Muslim leaders, like the President Tayyip Erdogan. I think with these worries, with these concerns, he is on an Asia-Pacific visit with the Muslim nations, with the reasonably larger populations. Indonesia is the country with the highest Muslim population, and then Pakistan with the 240 million population. So, and in similar fashion, Malaysia is a country with which Turkey has a very close ties. So in a broader context, I think it's a tiny effort at a time when we have seen that the Arab countries have stayed away. They are bigger part of the problems. They have basically aggravated the situation to this level where the President Donald Trump now largely being perceived some kind of an insane president who doesn't understand the situation on the ground. He is a kind of portraying a narrative which doesn't make sense, saying that the prisoners of war under the custody of Hamas were mistreated. As a matter of fact, it is the other way around. All the pictures and videos the world has seen, that portrays a different picture. And he is insisting that he's going to create conditions where Egypt and Jordan would be forced to take the population of Gaza, and obviously West Bank is the next. In that context, I think what Muslim countries can do, Arabs are silent and partners in the crime, and this very silence of the Muslim countries is becoming virtually as a participation in a bigger crime of the genocide. I think the options with the Muslim countries are very limited at a diplomatic forum, because you cannot talk a kind of a very aggressive, and I am using the word of genocidal diplomacy, which the US under President Donald Trump has launched. It is unprecedented that after conducting a genocide, which was live streamed to the world, now Donald Trump is asking for what? Straight away that the rest of the population, which is already internally displaced, they don't have shelters, they don't have the waters, they have already created hostile conditions in Gaza. He wants to set up, construct a beautiful enclave there, because there is a sea lane there. So I think it's an insane kind of agenda which is being imposed onto Gaza, at the heart of which is right from the day one, I've been discussing the same thing, that Israel has been pursuing a greater Israel agenda that is in league with the evangelical lobbies in the USA, which are backing President Donald Trump. And now what we hear from the cabinet of the Donald Trump, they are essentially talking point of the far right of Israel, the talking point of the Netanyahu. So I still wonder what rest of the Muslim countries can do, like Turkey, like Pakistan, like Malaysia, like Indonesia. And now I will also include Bangladesh because there is a change of guard in Dhaka. And also, let's not forget about Iran, though it has diplomatically and militarily, it has faced a lot of setbacks after supporting its own militant groups who were supporting Hamas in occupied Palestine. So in a larger context, I think the diplomatic efforts could possibly be to basically convening OIC summit. That is one such possibility. And also, I think, more importantly, you may recall that in 2020, there was a meeting of the countries like Pakistan, Iran, Qatar, and Malaysia, and it was a summit meeting. Pakistan's then Prime Minister Imran Khan was one of the initiators of that meeting, but that Imran Khan himself could not participate in that meeting because Saudis pushed Pakistan hard, and they had warned Pakistan that it will straight away send back overseas Pakistanis who were working in Saudi Arabia. So I think that meeting could not go through its real agenda. That was to basically set up a parallel organization to the OIC, because OIC has been hijacked by Saudi Arabia. And Saudi's crown prince, unfortunately, ironically, he's been in league with the apartheid state. He's been pursuing his own agenda. He wants a civil nuclear deal. He wants NATO-like security guarantees from the USA, and then he will sell out the Palestinian cause. Whatever the rhetoric we are hearing from Riyadh right now, that is just for the domestic consumption. It is just for the public consumption. The real agenda, we know what that agenda is. Therefore, OIC, in a very systematic manner, it would not go beyond condemning of what Israel has been doing. The real steps that Muslim countries can possibly take, I think during the last summer, the Turkey and Iran, they had come up with some concrete proposals, which was by and large revolve around having economic blockade of apartheid state. That was something which was a doable option. That did not take place. And I think now what can be done? I think President Tayyip Erdogan's efforts are certainly appreciable, but countries like Pakistan, we have a kind of leadership which would not go beyond the public rhetorics of supporting Gaza. Practically, they are not going to do anything. They are not, by the way, also in a position to do something, because when it comes to the economic blockade of apartheid state, that is where the Egypt has to play its role. That is where the Jordan has to play its role. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and many other Arab countries have to play their role. Turkey has to play a role. Turkey is willing. Iran is willing. But again, the bigger picture is that few countries can't do this. Turkey alone, Iran alone can't do this. And there is a lack of unity. And this lack of unity, at the end of the day, now literally, Donald Trump is arm twisting the Jordan's king. He's going to do that in tomorrow's meeting, and say in a similar fashion, he's going to do with Egypt, pushing both countries to take the entire population of Gaza. And let me tell you, West Bank is going to be the next, because they want to, as a matter of fact, remove all the hostilities around the Masjid Al-Aqsa in the Jerusalem, and then they would demolish it. The sitting defense secretary of USA, before becoming secretary, I think he has. There's a public rhetoric. He's been saying that this is the time when they need to rebuild the third Jewish temple, which means demolishing Masjid Al-Aqsa mosque. So in that context, I think the situation is very terrible. President Tayyip Erdogan's steps is just a beginning, but let's see how good response he gets from the Muslim countries. I do not foresee that happening.
Okay, you said that an economic blockade was one option, but they didn't go through with it. Do you think a new attempt could be made, possibly a unified approach with Egypt and Jordan, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are at stake the most. They will be directly affected if there was to be an influx of Palestinians and Donald Trump was to go through with his ridiculous plan.
Well, I think that is what should be done by the Jordan right now. But the king of the Jordan is going to see the President Donald Trump. Will he face him? Will he tell him that he can't do it? Because Donald Trump is going to basically withdraw the around $500 billion support, which I think it's over the period of last 5 years. That is a support that Jordan has been getting, and in a similar fashion, Egypt has also been getting a lot of billions of dollars have been pumped by the U.S., but not as much as the USA has been providing to the apartheid state. But at the end of the day, at what cost? Cost is to basically sacrificing the Palestinian cause. Remember, in 1924, we should not forget all these Arab countries, which were the simplest cities like Jordan, like Kuwait, like Qatar. They were just part of a bigger Ottoman Empire. They were made countries for what? Just for one reason, to keep the Muslims divided. That has turned out to be a very successful plan. Now, in that context, if we expect Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, that they will go for a genuine joint action along with Turkey, Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, I don't foresee that happening, because they have very small, tiny, vested political and economic interest. For MBS, what is the most important? Civil nuclear deal, NATO-like security guarantee, and then his so-called economic vision of 2030. So I think that is a small picture. All the leaks that I have monitored so far, that suggest that MBS is a desperate to normalize with the apartheid state. But at the same time, he's been telling to the Americans that if I do that, I could possibly be assassinated, because in Saudi Arabia, 98% people, they are straight away against the apartheid states, normalizing with the apartheid state. But in Saudi Arabia, you cannot talk against the normalization. Anyone talking against against the normalization, he's arrested. There was a survey, I think, not long ago, where there was a genuine concerns of the people that they would not accept the normalization. So I think personally the problem is that MBS wants the normalization, and now what he will do, and along with other Arab leaders like Jordan, like Egypt, they would not be partners to serve the Palestinian cause. Their silence is a criminal, and very unfortunately, even when there were attacks in the Red Sea, what happened? What Saudi Arabia was doing? What other Arab countries were doing?
Nothing.
The trade of Israel, which was actually blocked because of the attacks from Yemen, that was rerouted from Saudi Arabia to other Arab countries, and it landed in Israel. So those countries which are partners in the crime, let's not expect that they would deliver to the Palestinian cause until perhaps Israel expand more and more territory. And remember, Netanyahu has been saying now publicly that they have redrawn the maps of the Middle East, and they will do it again. Nobody is going to question them, because now Donald Trump is publicly talking of what far-right Israeli lobbies in USA and far-right Israeli allies of the Netanyahu, and Netanyahu himself has been talking about. I think what we have seen now, it was the first lethal episode of the genocide. Next could be anything, we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Javed, what role do President Erdogan and his counterparts envision for Muslim-majority nations in fostering both peace and security in Gaza and the wider Middle East?
Well, let's go back to 2020. The vision was basically to create an alternative Muslim bloc. And that bloc included Qatar, that bloc included Iran, that bloc included Pakistan, Malaysia, and perhaps it was Indonesia also. I think that proposal could not take off because Pakistan at the last minute then decided not to be part of the same bloc. Because Imran Khan, the then Prime Minister, despite initiating that idea, he had to withdraw under extreme pressure because literally MBS bullied Pakistan at that particular point of time because he behaved sometimes in a very arbitrarily fashion. And I think that proposal, if could possibly be reactivated. Realistically speaking, there cannot be military response because US says naval ships, warships are already in the Middle East. Iran has been militarily degraded. And we have to see the situation realistically. Now, there could be new dynamics in the region. Let's see how this meeting of the King Jordans happens with the Donald Trump tomorrow, and will he resist or will he accept a Palestinian population in return of billions of dollars? Because Donald Trump wants to own these buildings. His mindset is just like a real estate businessman. Let me tell you, if Muslim countries at this point of time even gave a joint threatening statement, Donald Trump would withdraw his support to Israel. He's a very coward man. And let me recall, in case of Pakistan, back in, I think it was 2019 or 2018 perhaps, when he threatened Pakistan to bring an end to the behind-the-scenes support to the Afghan Taliban, because Pakistan's military and intelligence network, for its geostrategic objectives, they were supporting Afghan Taliban behind the scene to topple the Ashraf Ghani government, which was backed by the Americans, because Pakistan was upset. Behind the scene, India had a lot of its presence, and they were sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan. So in that context, I think Donald Trump had threatened Pakistan that Pakistan will have to face the consequences. Imran Khan, in the same fashion, in the same tone, responded back, hit back. After 2 weeks, he said, okay, so facilitate the US to have a deal with the Taliban, and then there was a deal was struck, as a result of which American had to flee in a very disgraceful manner. So essentially, he's a businessman. If you look at his psychological makeup, that is more about having an underhand deal, putting pressures on the countries by imposing more and more tariff. He is not a kind of a person who can launch a full-scale war. Yes, Palestinians are very weak. They are unarmed. They have fought literally with their hands and with the small weapons during last 1.5 years in Gaza, but they have shown their resilience. He can continue some kind of attack through Israel, or maybe at one point of time directly, because they are weak. But when he will see some resistance from Muslim countries, he would not intervene in Palestinian issue. Now, I think there is a very cold-headed calculation by apartheid state and the Western terrorist lobbies, I call them, because they are the ones who are pursuing a theological, religious expansionist agenda through modified Bible's version, whereby they think that the borders of Israel have been defined in the Bible, which means that they will go up to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, parts of the Egypt, almost entire Syria, parts of Iraq, and parts of Turkey would be part of a greater Israel. So, and now when they are saying it publicly, now if you listen to the Israeli leaders and their commentators, they are openly talking about establishing a greater Israel. Reason being is they believe, now theologically speaking, that as long as they do not demolish Al-Quds Sharif, the Muslim third holiest site, their false Messiah would not appear. This is their basically theological pattern. A Christian evangelical lobby, they believe that the prophet Isa Jesus would not arrive back from the heavens until there is a demolition of the third Muslim holiest site in East Jerusalem. So in that context, they are now pursuing a very aggressive agenda. That agenda includes to remove all these hostilities in form of Hamas, in form of other jihadi groups, from Gaza, from the West Bank, and then to go for that last resort option, which the U.S. Defense Secretary has already made public. There is no secret about it. And then I think they believe there will be greater battle. That is what evangelical lobbies believe. And then Jesus, peace be upon him, would come from heaven, and they think then Jesus with his army would kill all these Jews. Now, this kind of nonsensical talk is going on within the evangelical lobbies, and they are in league with the Jewish lobbies, the extremist Jewish lobbies, and now Palestinians have literally are at their mercy now, because they are the only hurdles in this theological fascist agenda that they've been pursuing. Now, generally, people call it is the conspiracy theory. But look at their literature, look at their leaders. What are they're talking about? They're talking about the same thing, and now their talking points are on what again I have to say it, what U.S. Defense Secretary has been saying, what other Israeli leaders have been saying.
Javed, thank you so much for joining us again today. We always appreciate your insight.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point, and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.